I saw her standing at the corner of 3rd Avenue, hunched against the cold, her hands rummaging through the trash. Emily. The wind whipped her hair, but she didn't seem to care. The sight of her after all these years brought a wave of memories crashing back, memories of broken promises, unanswered questions, and that feeling of betrayal that never quite left. I hadn't expected to see her here, not like this, not in the middle of Seattle's relentless winter. The car rolled to a stop engine still running. For a moment there was nothing but watching. She didn't notice, completely absorbed in whatever scraps might still be useful. Moving felt impossible, as if stepping out would make the scene real. She looked like a stranger, yet familiarity cut deeper than recognition ever could. Pride had always defined her. Seeing that stripped away was unbearable. Eventually she looked up. Our eyes met. Something shifted in her expression, softened, guarded. The lines on her face deepened as though guilt or regret had settled there long ago. "Thomas," she said quietly, "it's been a while." The door closed behind me without a word. Silence didn't seem to bother her. Maybe it was expected. Some things no longer needed explanation. A nod toward the small coffee shop across the street was enough. "Let's go inside. We can talk." Inside warmth failed to reach her. She stayed distant fingers wrapped tightly around the mug, as steam rose between us, forming a thin barrier neither of us crossed. Watching her sit there felt like witnessing someone already halfway gone. She spoke at last, barely above a whisper. "It's Samantha. She tricked me, got me to sign papers. Everything was transferred, the house, the accounts. All of it." The words took a moment to settle. "What do you mean, everything?" "She controls it all now. I don't even have access." Her eyes lifted briefly, searching for something understanding, perhaps. But none came. The room seemed to press inward. Anger collided with disbelief and a familiar, bitter disappointment. How did she manage that? Emily looked away. That distance returned. She said it was for the best. Said I couldn't handle things anymore. That she would take care of it. Her voice faltered. I didn't realize. Leaning forward, I kept my voice firm. "This goes beyond money. You know that." A slow nod followed, as if the truth had been accepted long before this conversation ever happened. Silence stretched again. That expression, resigned, defeated, was unmistakable. It was the same one from years ago when everything first began to unravel. Loss lingered between us, heavy and unresolved. This wasn't what I had expected. Thoughts raced, grasping for solutions to something broken beyond simple repair. Letting it stand wasn't an option. "I'll help you," I said, steady, despite the chaos underneath. "We'll get it back. She won't walk away from this." For a brief moment, Emily's eyes softened. The sadness remained. She already knew what this meant. Some damage couldn't be undone, only faced. Leaving the coffee shop came with a hollow weight settling in my gut. Emily's words stayed close as the bank came into view. There was no avoiding this anymore. Samantha, my daughter, the one person I believed I could trust without question. The familiar hum of the bank barely registered. Steps carried me straight to the counter, eyes cutting through the room until they landed on her. Samantha looked up from her desk, surprise flashing first, then caution. "Dad?" she said, hesitant, as if caught mid-act. "Samantha!" The name felt tight in my throat. "We need to talk. Now." She gathered papers with trembling fingers, stalling. "What's this about?" Closing the distance, anger pressed harder against my chest. "Don't do that. Emily told me everything." She straightened, forcing composure, though guilt slipped through her eyes. I didn't mean for things to get out of hand. A breath held back the urge to raise my voice. "You didn't mean for it to get out of hand." The words came low, controlled. "You lied to your mother, took everything from her. And that's how you explain it." Her gaze dropped, then lifted again. I was trying to help. She couldn't handle the stress anymore. I thought I was protecting her. Disbelief sank deeper. Protecting her by stealing from her. It's not like that, she said quickly. You weren't around. Someone had to step in. That cut clean. You're right, I wasn't there. But that doesn't give you the right to destroy her life. Or ours. Cracks showed now. Panic crept into her breathing. I did it for the family. We needed the money. The bills she couldn't keep up. I thought I was doing the right thing. But you never stopped to think about what this would cost, I said. You didn't think about her or trust. You thought about control. Tears gathered but didn't fall. She crossed her arms, bracing herself. I never wanted to hurt anyone. You don't get to justify this, I cut in. What you did has a name. Betrayal. She flinched, then hardened. You never understood how hard it was, she muttered. A step back helped steady my breathing. Fixing this wouldn't be simple, maybe not possible at all. Don't, I said, raising a hand. This isn't about you feeling cornered. It's about what you did to your mother. She stayed silent, regret and defiance tangled on her face. I'll contact a lawyer, I said. This goes to court. The truth landed. She nodded without meeting my eyes. The phone vibrated in my pocket. A message from Emily. I've contacted a lawyer. We're starting the process to get everything back. It didn't cool the anger, but it grounded it, gave it direction. The phone slipped back into my pocket. You got what you wanted, Samantha, I said quietly. But this isn't over. She said nothing. Turning away, the weight followed me out of the bank. By the time the car came into view, the realization had settled in fully. This was never just about money. It was about trust, about damage done slowly, carelessly, and far too late to pretend otherwise. The phone buzzed just as I settled at my desk, a sharp interruption that hit harder than it should have. An unfamiliar number filled the screen. Ignoring it felt safer, but something wouldn't let it go. The call connected. Thomas Gray. The voice sounded distant, yet precise. Yes, who's this? My name's Sam. I used to work at your bank, with your family. A brief pause. We should talk. At the mention of the bank, my chest tightened. Leaning back, I kept my voice steady. About what? Your daughter, Samantha. She's been moving money without authorization. The words landed wrong. Moving money how? Silence followed. Then his voice dropped. There was a large transfer. She moved funds from one of your accounts into another account she controls. No consent from you. None from Emily. Pulse quickened. How do you know this? I was still employed when it went through. I shouldn't be calling, but it didn't sit right. I couldn't stay quiet. A hand dragged through my hair as frustration built. Why tell me now? Because I know what it's like to be lied to. And because you deserve the truth. The weight of it pressed down hard. Where did the money go? I can give you specifics, Sam said. But you need to act quickly. This situation is bigger than it looks. The call ended without a goodbye. Thoughts spiraled immediately. Samantha had accessed accounts she wasn't supposed to touch. Taken money in secret. If this was about helping Emily, why hide it? The story no longer held together. Something else was driving this, something deliberately concealed. Standing, I paced the office. The space felt tighter with every step. Too many questions? Too few answers. Decisions could wait, but ignoring this wasn't an option. The phone buzzed again. A message from Emily. I've contacted a lawyer. We've started the process. Relief surfaced briefly, then faded. The unease remained heavy and unresolved. Samantha's betrayal already cut deep. Now it felt like being pulled into something far beyond control. Dialing Emily's number took effort. My hand wasn't steady. Thomas. Her voice carried strain. Did you find out anything? There was a call today, I said carefully, from someone who used to work at the bank. He says Samantha transferred money from our account, without asking anyone. Silence stretched. What she finally said, she's hiding something. This isn't just about protecting you. A breath caught on the other end. Then what is she doing? I don't know yet, but I'll find out. After the call ended, the questions only multiplied. If Samantha was lying, she wasn't acting alone. Someone had helped her navigate this. One name surfaced uninvited. Dylan, an old friend, former business partner, someone I had trusted for years. He'd always been there when things tightened. But trust once cracked invited doubt. The phone came up again. The number dialed. A pause. Then the call connected. "Thomas, everything okay?" The sound of his voice unsettled more than it should have. "Dylan," I said, keeping it controlled. "I need to ask you something." "Go ahead." "Did you help Samantha with the transfer?" Silence answered first. Too long. Then his voice returned quieter than before. "Thomas, you need to hear the full story before you decide what comes next." It happened without warning. One moment things were still within reach, manageable, if barely, and the next the ground disappeared. The phone rang early that morning just as preparations began for another day of cleaning up the damage Samantha had left behind. "Mr. Gray," the voice was official, clipped. "Detective Adams, Bellevue Police Department. We need to speak." The words tightened something in my chest. "About what?" "A fraudulent insurance claim. We have evidence your signature was forged on a policy document." The phone felt heavier with every second. Staring at the screen, the answer surfaced before the question could stop it. "Samantha, that's correct. We believe she's involved in multiple fraudulent activities, including this claim. You'll need to come in and answer some questions." "Where is she?" The words came too fast. "We're still investigating. For now, we need your cooperation." The call ended. Air felt scarce. The walls seemed closer than before. Samantha, my daughter, the person I'd spent years protecting, excusing, believing in, had crossed a line that couldn't be softened or explained away. Everything moved quickly after that. Police involvement, records pulled, her name appearing in places it never should have. Suspicion followed her everywhere, and by extension followed me. Disbelief lingered stubborn and useless. She was my daughter, raised with care, given every chance. How had all the signs gone unnoticed? The house felt hollow. Each room carried the echo of unanswered questions. Emily was already working with her lawyer, starting the process to recover what had been taken. But this was no longer about accounts or property. It was about trust collapsing all at once. The walk into the police station came later that day. Each step pressed heavier than the last. Questions rehearsed themselves endlessly, missed signs, ignored instincts, responsibility. An officer nodded and led me to an interrogation room. Cold. Bare. Unforgiving. Fingers tapped against the metal table while waiting. Detective Adams entered with a thick folder, placing it between us. "Mr. Gray, we have substantial evidence your daughter forged your signature to obtain money from an insurance policy. Can you explain how this occurred?" The folder stayed closed, but the weight of it was unmistakable. Seeing her actions laid out in ink felt unreal, like reading about someone else wearing her name. "She did it without my knowledge," I said, the words distant even to myself. "I didn't authorize anything. She had no permission." Adams nodded, making notes. "She denies wrongdoing. Claims she was acting in her mother's best interest. But the documentation contradicts that. There was nothing left to defend. No explanation that could soften what had already happened. The rest blurred together. Questions answered mechanically. Details repeated. The truth sat heavy, unmovable. Samantha's lies were no longer private. The damage was public now. Leaving the station, something broke, not loudly, not dramatically, just a clean snap inside. Anger was gone. What remained was numbness. For years, I believed effort alone could shield a family from anything. That belief didn't survive this. Back home, the quiet pressed in. Reality settled slowly, relentlessly. Serious charges, forgery, fraud, facts that refused to bend around love or memory. The phone rang again. "Emily." "Thomas," she said, her voice tight. "Have you heard from Samantha?" "I've been at the station," I answered. "They're investigating her for fraud, forged documents, my signature." Silence followed. "Are you okay?" she asked at last. The question had no clear answer. "I don't know. Nothing feels clear anymore." "I'm here," she said softly. The words were steady, sincere, but distance remained. Not between us, between what life had been and what it now demanded. The pressure became suffocating. From every direction it felt as though the walls were closing in. Police continued to uncover evidence, and with each passing day, the picture sharpened. Samantha was guilty. Forged signatures, manipulated accounts, a web of lies dismantling everything that had taken years to build. Every new discovery stripped away another layer of control. Emily, despite her own wounds, stayed close. Her presence was steady, her voice calm when the rest of the world felt unsteady. "You don't have to go through this alone, Thomas," she said one night after another wave of bad news. "I'm here. We'll face it together." The words should have helped. Instead, they underscored what was already lost. Trust lay in pieces. The family I'd spent a lifetime holding together was unraveling in plain sight. Comfort couldn't undo that. The calls never stopped. Each one brought new complications, new pressure. Then came the call from Samantha's lawyer. The phone sat heavy in my hand before I answered. "Mr. Gray," he said, composed to the point of indifference. "I'm calling to suggest you reconsider continuing legal action against your daughter." Blood rushed hot and fast. "Reconsider what exactly?" "She's prepared to take responsibility," he replied. "But only if the case is dropped. Let her handle this quietly. We can arrange terms." The audacity landed hard. "You're asking me to let her walk away," I said. "After everything she's done." "Think long term," he countered. "Dragging this out benefits no one. You don't have to keep fighting." Backing down was never an option. Pressure spin appeals to family, none of it changed the truth. "You can tell her I said evenly that I'm not stopping. She made these choices. She'll answer for them." The call ended there. Resolve settled in, heavy but firm. Letting her off the hook would only deepen the damage. Later, the office felt unfamiliar papers stacked, unfinished work everywhere. The sense of order I once relied on was gone. Marissa stepped in quietly, watching for a moment. "You look exhausted," she said. "I am," I admitted. "This thing with Samantha, it's tearing everything apart." She took a seat across from me. "You're trying to save something that's already broken." Frustration flared. I've spent my life holding this family together, and now my own daughter is the one who destroyed it. Marissa didn't argue. "You can't fix this alone, and maybe you're not supposed to. Sometimes the only way forward is to stop trying to rebuild what can't stand anymore." The words landed deeper than expected. For the first time in weeks, the fight paused long enough for doubt to surface. Was this about justice or refusal to accept loss? There was no clear answer. By morning, the pressure intensified. Police labeled it a full investigation. Samantha was boxed in by evidence she couldn't outrun. Still, she denied everything, insisting her actions were meant to help her mother. That excuse no longer mattered. Standing by the office window, the city below felt distant, unreachable. Everything familiar sat on the edge of collapse. Pretending this was someone else's battle was no longer possible. Samantha wasn't a child anymore. She had made deliberate choices. The letter arrived on a Thursday morning, unmarked, folded cleanly left on the doorstep without explanation. It sat there for a moment before being picked up, already heavy, in a way paper shouldn't be. Whatever it carried, it wasn't going to be easy. Inside was a single sheet. The handwriting was familiar. The words were not. "Thomas, you have no idea how deep this goes. Samantha isn't the only one involved. You deserve the truth." The next lines made my stomach drop. "It's Dylan. He's been helping her. He forged your signature on the insurance claim and altered documents using his access. He's been taking a cut. Confront him, but be careful. He's not who you think." The letter slipped from my hands onto the table. Dylan. Business partner. Friend. Someone trusted without question for years. The idea didn't fit, yet the words refused to loosen their grip. He had been there through setbacks and victories always, steady, always loyal. Or so it seemed. The room tilted as the truth settled in. This wasn't just betrayal from a daughter who had crossed lines out of desperation or entitlement. This was calculated, intentional. Someone close had helped orchestrate it. Memories rushed in late nights, planning shared risks, the easy confidence of partnership. How long had it been an act? How much had been hidden in plain sight? The phone rang, breaking the spiral. "Marissa." "Thomas," she said quickly. "We need to talk. It's about Samantha." "What now?" The words came out flat. "She's still denying everything. Police pressure hasn't changed that." "It's not about her," Marissa said. "It's Dylan." Something tightened in my chest. I've been hearing things. Meetings behind closed doors. Strange behavior. I didn't want to believe it, but I think he's involved. With Samantha. A slow breath escaped. "I know," I said, quietly. "A letter came this morning. It names him. Forgery. Document manipulation. All of it." Silence followed. "I'm sorry," Marissa said at last, "but it fits. He's been playing both sides for a long time." There was no room left for denial. The pieces aligned too cleanly now. Dylan wasn't a bystander. He was central to the damage, every bit as responsible as Samantha. The rest of the day passed in a numb haze. Familiar images wouldn't leave Dylan's easy smile, the firm handshake, the casual reassurances. All of it felt counterfeit now. Worse still, the betrayal had been shared with my own daughter. By nightfall, the decision was unavoidable. Confrontation couldn't wait. The next morning, his office came into view. No call ahead. No warning. There was no value in giving him time to prepare a lie. Dylan looked up as I entered, face brightening with practiced warmth. "Tom, didn't expect you today. Everything okay?" There was no return smile. "We need to talk." The warmth flickered. "About what?" "About you and Samantha," I said evenly, "and what you've been doing behind my back." Color drained from his face. "Tom, I don't know what—" The phone came out, the video cued. His voice filled the room, discussing forged signatures, transferred money cover stories. Every word undeniable. The screen reflected back at him. The truth unfiltered. "You thought this would stay hidden," I said. "That I'd never see it." Dylan said nothing. His shoulders sagged, the performance finally gone. "I never meant to hurt you," he murmured. But once it started, I couldn't stop. The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. The scent of freshly ground coffee and the low murmur of distant conversations failed to calm the storm already set in motion. This was it, the final confrontation. Samantha sat alone at a corner table. When she looked up, there was caution in her eyes, but no surprise. She had been waiting. Taking the seat across from her, I rested my hands on the table, the folder between us, carrying everything she had hoped would stay hidden. "Thomas," she said flatly, "didn't expect you today." "Expecting who?" The voice came out steady. "The man whose life you dismantled, or the father who trusted you more than anyone else." Her eyes flicked to the folder. No answer. "This ends now," I said, sliding it closer. "Forged signatures. Manipulated accounts. Every step you took, thinking no one would catch on." For a moment, composure cracked. Then it returned sharper. "I was protecting Mom," she said, defensive. "You wouldn't understand." "Don't insult me," I shot back. "This wasn't protection. This was theft. And you didn't do it alone." The shift was subtle but unmistakable. "Dylan," she whispered. Leaning in, I kept my voice low. "I know he helped you. I know he forged my signature and moved the documents. He wasn't following you were working together." Denial never came. Color drained from her face as the truth settled. Why, the question slipped out rougher than intended. "Why do this to your mother?" "To me." Her lips trembled, but she refused to let the moment break her. "I had no choice." "There's always a choice," I said. "You chose this one." Silence followed. Hands shook as her gaze dropped to the folder. Standing, I didn't wait for anything else. This goes public. You'll face what you've done. As I turned away, her voice followed thin, strained. You're making a mistake. No, I said without looking back. I'm not. Outside, the weight settled deeper than expected. There was no apology, no resolution. Only truth, finally exposed. The phone buzzed before I reached the curb. Dylan. After a pause, I answered. Thomas, he said, tension thick beneath the calm. We need to talk. Dewy anger surfaced again. About what? I never wanted this, he said quickly. I couldn't stop. A short, bitter laugh escaped. You chose every step. Don't pretend otherwise. Silence. Then honesty at last. I did it for the money. Samantha promised a cut. I thought I could fix things. The betrayal landed clean and final. You destroyed everything I said. And I don't know if that's forgivable. I'll help fix it, he pleaded. No, I cut in. This is past fixing. It goes to court. Resignation filled the space between breaths. I understand. The court date arrived, and with it, the end of any remaining illusion. As much as I wanted to shield her, wanted to believe there was still a way to intervene, the truth stood firm. Samantha had crossed a line that could not be stepped back over. What followed was no longer within my control. Inside the courthouse, papers shifted, voices moved through, procedure decisions were rendered with practiced efficiency. Lawyers spoke. The judge listened. Yet the only thing that registered was the realization that something fundamental had failed. Not the law. Me. Across the room, Samantha bore little resemblance to the child I remembered. No trace of the girl who once reached for reassurance, or the daughter whose future kept me awake at night. The woman seated there was guarded, hardened, convinced of her own justification. Even now, accountability seemed out of reach. The charges were read aloud. Fraud, forgery, conspiracy. Each word landed with dull force. The process was impersonal, clinical. Watching it unfold felt detached, as if someone else's life were being dismantled in real time. The verdict brought no shock. Guilty. Consequences followed, measured and unavoidable. Whatever punishment came next would stay with her long after the courtroom emptied. She never looked up. When the session ended, stepping outside brought no relief. Anger, grief, exhaustion, all of it felt spent. What remained was emptiness. This had never been about money or legal strategy. It was about trust, misused love taken for granted, and the limits of protection. The walk toward the parking lot was quiet. The phone buzzed. Thomas, Emily said, her voice careful. I know how hard this was. You did the right thing. The words hung there. Did I? The question felt more like inventory than doubt. Sometimes she said gently, doing the right thing means letting go. There was no argument left in me. Protecting Samantha from herself was no longer possible. Sitting in the car afterward, engine running, hands resting on the wheel direction, felt unfamiliar. For years, purpose had been clear: hold things together, keep damage contained. Now the pieces were scattered beyond repair. That was the moment it became clear protection had to include myself. Some things could not be saved. Some people would not accept rescue. Avoiding that truth had only delayed the cost. Work resumed the next day. The desk looked the same, yet everything felt altered. Messages stacked up. Responsibilities waited. Focus came and went. Thoughts returned uninvited. Emily believed the right choice had been made. Certainty didn't follow. Healing wasn't immediate. It rarely is. Leaving early that evening, the park offered space to slow down. The pace of walking replaced the urgency that had ruled for months. There was no need to hurry. A bench near the water waited. Sitting there watching movement ripple outward and fade, the noise finally quieted enough for reflection. Years spent holding things together. Years spent fixing what resisted repair. Forward was the only direction left. There was no undoing what had happened. But there was movement. And for the first time in a long while, breathing came without effort.